So our second wave came rolling along, and look what's happening. It's actually far worse than the first wave.
Tonight, prison outbreak as Saskatchewan jail is facing a crisis with inmates who have COVID-19.
There's no visual on the site today to suggest that the residential school is indeed there.
Bringing history back to life. A group of Albertans want people to know about a forgotten residential school.
And they're like family to me now because I see them almost every day.
And we meet a service that brings hot meals and a friendly face to those in need. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. We begin in Saskatchewan, where advocates are concerned about the safety of inmates and guards at one of the province's correctional centres for men. That's because nearly 1/4 of the people there have tested positive for COVID-19. APTN's Priscilla Wolfe has the story.
Kimberly Bowden is the Vice Chief of the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples. He's worried about the inmates in the Saskatoon Correctional Centre. 130 of the 476 inmates have tested positive for COVID-19. Several staff have also tested positive.
Back in March, we wrote a letter to the Premier, and of course we CC'd Minister Tell regarding the first wave of COVID-19. And we were very concerned that our people would be like sitting ducks in that facility. Particularly a lot of people that have been remanded.
The concern started with the first wave, and now the second wave seems to have hit the Saskatoon Correctional Centre harder.
So our second wave came rolling along, and look what's happening. It's actually far worse than the first wave.
Pierre Hawkins, public legal counsel for the John Howard Society in Saskatchewan, also voices his concerns. The Society and other groups wrote an open letter to the province's Justice Minister in late October.
So the John Howard Society of Saskatchewan, along with the Elizabeth Fry Society of Saskatchewan, Pro Bono Law Saskatchewan, and Classic Inc., an inner-city legal clinic in Saskatoon, penned this letter together. We are effectively the organizations who provide legal services to inmates in Saskatchewan.
The advocates want some inmates released to stop overcrowding and allow social distancing.
In the Saskatoon Correctional Centre, a lot of the inmate housing is in dormitories, and we know that in dormitories it's very, very difficult to social distance because you've got bunk beds that might be a meter or two apart.
Hawkins adds many of the men in the facility are in remand.
Effectively, we've asked for the province to, and the prosecution service to reduce its use of remand. So people who are held awaiting trial. We've also asked for the Ministry of Corrections and Policing to use its powers under the relevant legislation, specifically its temporary absence and reintegration leave programs, in order to let out elderly, non-violent, immunocompromised people.
Saskatchewan's Ministry of Corrections stated in an email that they are exploring options for accommodations, but no decision has been made. They currently have halted jail admissions and continue to test inmates and staff. Priscilla Wolfe, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Canada's Chief Public Health Officer says that while news of the pending arrival of the Pfizer vaccine is welcome, getting COVID-19 under control will not be a fast process.
Initial supplies of COVID-19 vaccines will be limited, but supply will gradually increase until there is enough to provide access for all Canadians. During these initial stages of vaccine rollout, it is crucial that we all continue with public health measures to protect ourselves and others.
Dr. Tam adds that the response to the COVID-19 pandemic is the biggest collective effort of our lifetimes, and it depends on all Canadians. Canadians could be immunized from COVID-19 as early as next week.
Pfizer, the Public Health Agency, and the provinces are working together to finalize preparations at the first 14 vaccination sites.
Up to 249,000 doses will be delivered this month. The first batch could arrive by next week, with millions more expected in the new year. Health Canada approval could arrive at any moment, and the provinces are now gearing up to distribute the doses. Shimada First Nation is still struggling with the COVID-19 outbreak, and cases have skyrocketed. The military and other organizations have been called to help, but some of them are not there yet. With more on the situation, here's our reporter Daryl Stranger.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. The community of Shimada First Nation has just been absolutely rocked by the COVID-19 virus. There are currently 264 cases of COVID-19, and 221 of them are on Shimada First Nation in the community. Shimada sits approximately 750 kilometers north of Winnipeg and has a population of a little more than 1,000 people. Chief Eric Redhead says the community needs help now.
We're past the breaking point. We've broken. We need boots on the ground right now, because our boots are out for the count.
Now, 5 members of the Canadian Red Cross are in the community, and they have actually taken over the community's pandemic response, as the local pandemic response team is actually either isolating due to exposure from the COVID-19 virus, or they've actually tested positive for the virus themselves. Now, members of the Bear Clan are also arriving today to help with whatever the community might need. 6 rangers are being deployed to the community, although it's not really clear when that they're going to be arriving. In an email from the Department of National Defense, the Rangers will, quote, provide assistance to the community in the production and distribution of real-life support requirements such as food, firewood, and care packages. And they will also be doing other tasks over a period of 30 days that they will be there. And Redhead outlined some of the specifics he hopes the Rangers can assist with upon arrival.
What we need right now is we need isolation units. We need their military expertise in terms of medical stuff. We need their nurses, their doctors. Right now, our pandemic response team is very, very fatigued. They're tired. They're overworked. We need a relief for them. No community wants the military in their community. No, we don't want that, right? But we need it right now.
Now, the MKO has also penned a letter with Chief Redhead to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau asking that seniors be evacuated from the community to be closer to health services if any health services are required for them. Perry Bellegarde also stated on Twitter that he will be writing the Prime Minister in support of this plea. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We'd like to hear how you and your community are being impacted by COVID-19. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. In other news, some residents of Peace River in northern Alberta say the legacy of residential schools is still unknown, even though a residential school site is located within city limits. Now the city's museum announced it hopes to bring that awareness by turning the hidden site into a learning center. Tamara Pimentel has this story.
This Catholic church is the only building standing at St. Augustine Mission. Next to it once stood a residential school. Laura Love, curator for the Peace River Museum, says there are tours of this site to bring awareness to residential schools, but the tours aren't very popular, and this site isn't well known even to the locals.
Because there's no visual on the site today to suggest that the residential school is indeed there. The residential school history or the influence of the school still today here in Peace River is not known.
Now the museum received a grant from the federal government to re-landscape St. Augustine Mission by adding signs and outlining where the original buildings were to better recognize the history and legacy of residential schools.
By having that official knowledge shared in a public space, we're making space for our future Indigenous kids coming up that they belong, they were here, we have every right to be here and be part of the community.
Wendy Goulet is with the Peace River Aboriginal Interagency. She says, as an Indigenous person in this area, it's difficult to prove what happened within this site. This mission was a residential school until 1907. After federal funding stopped, it continued to be operated by the Roman Catholic Church until the 1950s. 13 buildings made up this site. Now all that remains is the church and cemetery.
We can maybe break a cycle instead of just reliving the same over and over. I mean, that's my hope, right? Like that. Sometimes knowing where you come from can make a big difference on where you're going.
Restoration of the mission will be completed by spring 2021. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Peace River.
Many communities could benefit from a similar initiative. A Saskatchewan woman has died while in police custody. On Saturday, Kamsack RCMP arrested the 44-year-old woman at her home on the Cody First Nation over what police say was an ongoing investigation. According to a media release from Saskatchewan RCMP, on Sunday, December 6th, the woman who was in custody in Kamsack needed medical attention. She was taken by ambulance to Kamsack Hospital. Shortly after, she was pronounced deceased. Saskatchewan RCMP have requested the Estevan Police Service conduct an investigation into the circumstances surrounding her death. Time to step aside now for a quick break. Coming up, the AFN Annual General Assembly gets underway one day after the National Chief announces he won't run again.
I will continue to advocate for access to the resources our communities that they all need to manage through this crisis.
Welcome back. Virtual, that's been a popular word in 2020, as it is for this year's AFN Chiefs Assembly, which kicked off today behind the screens of devices across Canada. The opening song would normally be played in front of hundreds of delegates, but not today. And the welcome to Algonquin territory by Kitigan Zibi Chief Dylan Whiteduck was from a remote location. So it was no surprise AFN National Chief Perry Bellegarde's opening remarks were pandemic related. He doesn't want First Nations left behind when a vaccine is rolled out or when the pandemic is over.
I will continue to advocate for access to the resources our communities that they all need to manage through this crisis, and to ensure that First Nations health and well-being are at the center of all plans to rebuild and restore the Canadian economy. And we'll do this by calling on and building on the same spirit of partnership and collaboration that has sustained us through this crisis.
The Assembly of First Nations is also debating the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The Liberals introduced Bill C-15 in the Commons last week. The Assembly is discussing it in their virtual meeting this week. We're joined by Bruce Spence now to attempt to break that down. He's one of the producers with APTN National News. Bruce, thanks for being with us. Can you tell us a bit about what this bill is?
Well, the federal bill, which was rolled out last week, is complementary to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which was passed in 2007 by the General Assembly there. And Canada has been kind of hemming and hawing about it ever since. Just before the election last fall, New Democrat Romeo Saganash had his own bill, which was to recognize the UNDRIP in Canadian legislation, and that died on the order table in the Senate just days before the election was called. So now it's being brought back to life, resurrected by the Liberal minority, and it's basically, the rights of Indigenous people are hereby recognized. We recognize the right to self-determination. We will consult with you on any changes that have to be made, and at the same time, we will not recognize the rights of the Mi'kmaq in their treaties from the 1760s and 50s.
Yeah, you're kind of touching on it there, and you are, no doubt have seen people speaking about this online in a negative way. What is the downside of what's being brought forward?
Well, anytime something looks really good, too good to be true. It probably is not very good. You're just automatically suspicious of anything that comes out of anybody, which is really, really, really great. But when you take a look at it, let's have a closer look. From out west where I'm from, there's the numbered treaties, the historical treaties, and nowhere in those treaties did any of us that I know of give up our title, our sovereignty to our country. Now, decades ago, the National Indian Brotherhood and the Assembly of First Nations agreed to have treaty and Aboriginal rights enshrined in the Constitution. They had no right to do that then, and they have no right to do it now. But it was strictly, when you think of it outside the constitutional box, there is no reason for us to have our rights enshrined in anybody's constitution except our own. And we have our own rights. We have our own title. And that's this new legislation is a step away. In fact, it's running away from that.
Bruce, we'll have to leave it there, but appreciate you giving us your insight on this.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This is something that you're not going to learn about in the School of Indigenous Governance at Ryerson University or University of Victoria, by the way. It needs a lot more study by legalists and academics and journalists.
Well, again, Bruce, we always appreciate you giving us your thoughts. Time to step aside now for one more quick break. Still to come, we'll take you for a ride on the Bannock Bus.
I hope it goes out there to some people that's needy too sometimes, because I think needy is a lot more happening today in a lot of places.
Welcome back. Let's have a look now at our photo of the day. And our thanks to Ernest Turner for sending in this beauty from Mississippi Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. Quite the framing. You can send us your photos. Email your shot to share at aptn.ca, and we'll do our best to get them on the air. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, +2 for Halifax, 5 above with showers in St. John's, +1 with snow for Happy Valley Goose Bay and Cartwright. +1 with a rain-snow mix in Montreal, 7 below with snow in Chibougamau. 6 with showers and snow in Toronto, +3 in Sault Ste. Marie. +4 for Thunder Bay, +1 with snow in Sioux Lookout. -14 in Churchill, 0 with snow for God's Lake. +3 under sunny skies in Winnipeg, 5 above for Brandon. +2 in showers in Regina, -1 for Saskatoon. 0 in Buffalo Narrows and Meadow Lake. Over in northern Alberta, 0 with snow for High Level and Fort McMurray. 0 with a rain-snow mix in Medicine Hat, +2 with the rain-snow mix in Calgary. 6 in Kamloops, 9 with showers for Vancouver. -5 in Fort Nelson, 0 in Smithers. -16 with flurries for Old Crow, 0 for Whitehorse. 12 below with snow in Yellowknife, -17 and snow in Norman Wells. 27 below for Sax Harbor, -13 with snow in Paulatuck. -19 in Whale Cove, 21 below in Baker Lake, -28 in Resolute, 18 below in Joe Haven. Well, it's a well-known fact that the COVID-19 pandemic has hit certain populations harder than others. This is definitely the case for Ottawa's less fortunate. The Odawa Native Friendship Centre offers valuable services for them. JB Pashgumskum brings us a story of one of those lifelines.
Hey, what's for lunch? Thank you. Nothing. Yay. Thank you.
Today, we're doing a ride-along with the Bannock Bus. It operates out of the drop-in centre in downtown Ottawa, known as 510 Rideau. Its mission? bringing hot meals to those in need. Today, they're bringing around chicken with veggies and roast potatoes. The 510 not only offers a hot lunch every day to its clients, but with the help of the Bannock Bus, it's able to bring those meals to those who can't make it in for medical reasons. Maria is a regular for the Bannock Bus.
I hope it goes out there to some people that's needy too sometimes, because I think needy is a lot more happening today in a lot of places.
Because of COVID?
Yes. A lot of things have been going down because of COVID. And missing family. Yeah. And they're like family to me now because I see them almost every day.
Not only will the bus deliver to your home, but it has a daily route with scheduled stops downtown, bringing hot food and a fresh serving of good cheer. And they'll stop whenever they see someone they recognize.
Okay? You're good to go? Yep. All right, buddy. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday. They're always happy to see us. You know, we know these guys, you know. We see these guys every day. We know who's who. And
Jeff Budge drives the Bannock Bus. Normally, he will deliver 25 to 30 hot meals a day. But today is rainy, and the clients are scarce. They've only delivered 10 lunches.
Now, it's getting colder. People need boots, socks, mitts. We give out socks and mitts, hats and scarves. People need like winter coats.
And how does Jeff feel about the friendly warmth he's bringing to the clients?
I feel great, man. You know, it'll do something good for the people.
The program has hit a few road bumps throughout the years. Carrie Diabo is the program coordinator.
For a couple of years for the funding, they lost the van because it was too old and it was secondhand and it was too expensive to repair.
This van was bought new in 2018, and as long as the funding lasts, the hot meals will keep on rolling. Jamie Pashagumskam, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Great service to put a spotlight on. APTN News and Current Affairs are continuing our look at the impacts of the child welfare system this week. Tonight, on an all-new episode of Face to Face, our guest is Robin Bunting. Bunting is the lead representative on child welfare for Constance Lake First Nation in Northern Ontario.
Ever since my niece had passed away, and the stories that I've learned and experienced throughout all my 20 years, I used to see this back in 20 years ago, all the bad stuff and all the sad stories. I can't believe that it's still happening in 2020, where we are so advanced in many ways, but not in child welfare. First Nations child welfare, especially, we're so discrimination is just unbelievable.
And you can catch that entire episode of Face to Face in less than 2 minutes. And be sure to tune in to In Focus tomorrow live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The child welfare system will be the topic of that show as well. And that is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.